So people have been asking me to do an analysis and breakdown of the new Game of Thrones trailer, so here it is. We open with the scene of the wall and the dead body of Jon Snow. The big question to ask about the return of Jon is whether he will be resurrected or whether he will send his consciousness into Ghost. We know that bodies can be animated with little evidence that someone's consciousness is inside them, like a White or Lady Stoneheart in the book. Jon's consciousness may be inside Ghost, while his body walks around like a puppet. Now, I've read a lot of George R. R. Martin's stories, and none of them involve resurrection, while body switching and corpse puppetry happen quite a bit. Now next we get a Martell ship heading into King's Landing, which is almost certainly Jaime heading home. The fate of Trystane is a huge mystery here. Whether killed or made hostage, it seems like a huge fuck-up for Doran Martell. Unless it's not the real Trystane or something. As you can tell, I keep hoping for an intelligent Dornish master plan, but we keep failing to see one. And then we have Jaime likely breaking the news of dead Myrcella to Cersei. So we always have a feeling that the show and the book will reconcile somehow with some of these plots. If there will be a reconciliation of the two Jaime stories, we are a long way off. Book Jaime, for the most part, has graduated. And when I say he has graduated, I mean he has come to our author's endgame message of realizing that war, revenge, and killing are bad. Book Jaime has seen the light, and that's what I most look forward to with the Jaime story in Winds of Winter. What does an enlightened person do next? How do they heal the world? George R. R. Martin has presented a lot of problems, but what are the solutions? Show Jaime is still all about hating other people and ruling the realm. Next, Cersei looks troubled about the death of her daughter. Now, stripping of femininity is a reoccurring theme in our story. Like Arya and Book Dany, Cersei's hair has been cut and her femininity has been taken away symbolically. The next question is, how does Cersei hold power without her tool of sexuality? There's of course Sir Robert Strong, but I think we will also discover that Cersei is smarter than we think and will do just fine. It is a little shocking that Myrcella is actually dead. In the book, Myrcella was an insanely important bargaining chip for the Dornish, and they just disposed of it in the show. In the book, Myrcella is so central to the Dornish chapters. How on earth can Show Dornish ever hope to avoid war now? Can Doran really pin everything on Ellaria? I guess we'll have to wait and see. Next we have a man that appears to be Davos and a pile of logs. I can't think what the logs are for. A funeral pyre? I can't think of who he would be burning. Jon isn't going to be burned, and Shireen has already been. Maybe Melisandre? We get a quick shot of the Boltons. Nothing really to say here. One of the best aspects of A Dance with Dragons was that all the houses were cooped up at Winterfell, and we got to see everything break down. I imagine the escape of Sansa is going to create some internal conflict. So then we get a flayed man being burned and a crowd cheering in the background. Now, Boltons don't usually burn their captives, and followers of the Red God don't usually flay their captives. If you notice, this person's face has been taken completely off, and then the body is being burned. This has happened before in our story, to fake Bran and fake Rickon. One has to ask, who would warrant a cheering crowd that large? Certainly Stannis, maybe Theon, but then why take the person's face off? And why burn them? I think that Stannis' body wasn't found, and they're burning a stand-in. And then we have a scene where Melisandre is saying that she misread her visions. One thing from the book about Melisandre is that she is bullshitting people somewhere between most of the time and all of the time. She does see things in her flames, but she has no idea what they are, so she simply interprets them and guesses. Next comes the Super Dario brothers heading off to find Dany and finding her ring, as if tens of thousands of horse tracks and hundreds of pounds of horse shit wouldn't give that away. We are way off book with Jorah and Daario, so it's tough to say where they will end up. The evidence is pretty strong that Daario is a fairly evil character in both book and show, so we shall see if he tries to murder Jorah along the way. Not that it matters too much, as Jorah is a dead man walking with his grayscale. I think a big question is whether Daario will become infected with grayscale. This could perhaps get us into the mysterious Shrouded Lord plot from A Dance with Dragons. Now next we have Dany arriving at Vaes Doth Rock with a special focus on how it's a mountainous city. In the book, Dany has visions of the crones of Vaes Doth Rock in front of a mountain, so returning here isn't too much of a surprise for book fans. The Dothraki have an obligation to return Khal widows to Vaes Doth Rock to become crones. So the real question here is, what can Dany find out from hanging with a bunch of crones? In the book, it seems that someone set up the crones to say that Dany will birth the stallion that mounts the world, and that person is likely Illyrio. I think Dany may find out some of Illyrio's plans through the crones. The other possibility is Viserys' body and his possessions, which we haven't seen since his death. He may have had some sort of document on him, maybe even a Dornish marriage contract, that would give Dany a greater clue on what was going on first season. Next we have the High Sparrow talking about revolution. I've recently read Plato's Republic because of its importance to another George R. R. Martin book, Tough Voyaging. And the Republic has made me think that the Faith Militant will have a much larger role than I initially thought, and may even rule fully in King's Landing instead of a king. The reason for this is because Plato describes government degrading from a timocracy, a military or honor-based government, to an oligarchy, a money-based government, to a democracy, a freedom and chaos-based government, to tyranny, a power-based government. The plot flow from a Baratheon to a Lannister to the Faith Militant to a Dragon Tyrant seems to fit this nicely. And next we have the Kingsmoot, which I am super looking forward to because it's in my top 5 favorite chapters. It might be number 1. I also love Cersei 4, A Feast for Crows, Dragon Tamer, A Dance with Dragons, Daenerys 10, A Game of Thrones, and Theon 1, A Dance with Dragons. It's hard for me to decide which is the best. Now at the Kingsmoot, maybe we'll actually get to see Gilbert Farwind. But in any case, this is of course the beginning of the Ironborn adventure to Slaver's Bay. So next we have Sansa, who is in pretty good health with furs and lip gloss. So I imagine she either made it to the Wall or to the Umbers. I'm guessing the Umbers? Or maybe the Manderleys? Since we're so far off book with her, it's tough to say where she is or what she'll do in the future. Will the North rally around her instead of Rickon, as they do in the book? Or will Littlefinger pick her up and bring her back to the Vale or Harrenhal? It would seem a little crass to have the writers ship Sansa all the way to the North, only to be abused and shipped back. But then again, that's what they did with Jaime. So here we have Tyrion with a torch, so I imagine he's going downstairs to have a look at those dragons. We generally know that the dragons will have to escape. However, we don't know if they will be released because of war or by mistake, as in the book. The big question is, who will capture them? Dragons seem to be a metaphor for nuclear weapons, and the problem with nuclear weapons is the minute one power gets them, their enemies try to get them too. The US got a nuke, which caused the Soviet Union to get a nuke, which caused China to get a nuke, which caused India to get a nuke, which caused Pakistan to get a nuke. I personally think that the Ironborn will be capturing a dragon. In the book, the Ironborn have a ship filled with pork that is ready to be chowed down on. I call this situation Chekhov's bacon. So then we have a dragon, but I'm not sure which one. Then we have Lancel facing off against Cersei. I don't actually know what the Faith is trying to do here. Cersei will likely win her trial, so she should be innocent in the eyes of the gods. But the Faith is after something or someone. I imagine Tommen? So Sir Robert Strong is fully operational, but I should make a statement about Clegane Bowl, and many of you will likely get angry at me. Clegane Bowl, get de-hyped. I understand that many of you want to see the Hound fight the Mountain, even though it already happened in Season 1, and it would be awesome, but the Hound has graduated. He has come to our author's endgame message of realizing that war, revenge, and killing are bad. And really think about it for a second. Isn't the Elder Brother's speech in A Feast for Crows one of the most beautifully written things in the entire series? Do you really want to see the Hound regress back into a brother-hating killer? It would be like Martin Luther King saying, "I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal." And then say, "Fuck it, kill the Eskimos." Now Arya finishing her death list, that's something else. Strong v Arya, get hyped. Next we have what seems to be the Tower of Joy fight. Although we might get to see a great fight and maybe even a shot of a baby, I wouldn't hold your breath about discovering who the baby is. That secret will likely live on a while longer. Here we have Alliser Thorne breaking down a door. I imagine he's looking for Jon's corpse. If they received a letter from Ramsay demanding Jon be killed, I imagine that they need his body as proof that he's dead. Next we have Tommen facing off against Cersei. I wonder what the disagreement is here. If Cersei was protecting Tommen before for the Faith, why would they be on bad terms now? I imagine Cersei likely still thinks she is Queen Regent, a title that has been stripped from her, so perhaps Tommen is attempting to enforce her lack of regency, or maybe he's trying to rescue Marjorie. Then we get some horses, probably the wildlings, and then some ships, probably the Ironborn. Then we get Arya getting her ass kicked by Jaqen H'ghar. Of course, in A Dance with Dragons, Arya gets her ass kicked quite a bit before she learns to warg. Here we seem to have Littlefinger in the snow, so I guess he's in the north. Is he there to pick up Sansa? Maybe she really was shipped up to the north to be abused, to be shipped right back down south. Next we have Marjorie in captivity. Now with the trials of Cersei and Marjorie, it seems that Cersei is actually guilty and Marjorie is actually innocent. So a twist would be that Cersei would get off and Marjorie would be found guilty. This doesn't necessarily mean she'll die though. In the book, the Tyrell army surrounds King's Landing, so they may try to rescue her. Here we have a mystery man getting hit with fire. I believe this is likely the body double that someone put in place of Stannis. We can see that the man is traveling with some supplies off to the right, so it can't actually be Stannis or say Theon. Here we have Bolton forces going to war against the wildlings, and then we have the Marine Palace getting destroyed by either war or riots or dragons, so it seems Marine will go to war as it does in the book. And here we have Theon likely getting captured by the Boltons, but don't worry, I think it's highly unlikely that Theon will die. Keep in mind that a big plot point in the book is that Theon wasn't at the Kingsmoot, and therefore the Kingsmoot is null and void. Theon will likely one day face off against Euron. And speaking of Euron, here's him going through a religious ceremony. We shall see if he just has water poured over his head, or if he goes through a full drowning. Interestingly, in the book, Euron is not a follower of the drowned god, and his brother Aeron Damphair fucking hates him. And here we get some lovin'. This is still going on. Now this scene seems to be really weird. It seems to be someone rescuing Theon from capture, and the quick editing makes it look like it's Brienne. But the armor doesn't really match. This armor seems to be more samurai-like and has snow all over it, and this one seems to have bulky shoulders with no snow. I have no idea who this could be. It's not Stannis armor, it's not Bolton armor, it's not Wildling armor. Now these seem to be some female hands looking into some flames with a ring on one of the hands. I don't know if that's Dany's ring, it doesn't look like it. And Melisandre doesn't seem to wear rings. So yeah, I don't know. Here we have the House of Black and White, nothing special. Here is Melisandre getting naked again. A lot of her magic seems to involve this. I hope some necrophilia doesn't happen with Jon's corpse. Now this is maybe Arya running and jumping in Bravos. She does run from her kill in the Ugly Little Girl chapter. Now they aren't showing her face because of stunt doubles, but I do wonder if she's an ugly little girl. Next we have the Boltons facing off against the Wildlings, so it seems pretty certain that Unjon or Tormund will be leading forces south. This is of course what Jon wanted to do at the end of A Dance with Dragons, but was stabbed first. Now here we have Yara making out with another woman. The lighting makes it look like it's a sunnier locale, so it's unlikely that this is the Iron Isles. It seems the character of Victarion has been merged with Yara, and Yara will be the one heading to Slaver's Bay. This woman may be the Dusky Woman, a mysterious woman who spends a bunch of time with Victarion on his journey, so this definitely seems to be Euron on a rope bridge during a storm, about to kill Balon Greyjoy. So it seems the show is going to have Euron murder Balon directly. For the book, many fans think Euron either hired a faceless man or used a magical gust of wind to kill Balon. I'm definitely in the minority in that I think Jason Mallister and Maesters were involved. The show is making it pretty simple. Now this seems to be Ned fighting some Kingsguard at the Tower of Joy. Note the Targaryen sigil. And here is Tormund fighting some Bolton men. And this scene may be Unjon riding a horse into battle. And next we have Marjorie with the High Sparrow, perhaps trying to manipulate him. In the book, Tyrell forces surround the city just in case Marjorie is found guilty. And I'm guessing that Marjorie will be found guilty and that Tyrell forces will try to rescue her. Now here we have a weird scene with what looks to be poor people stoning someone to death. It could be poor people trying to rescue Marjorie. After all, they liked her. Or it could be poor people coming to the aid of the Faith Militant and fighting Tyrell forces. Or it could be little birds killing Kevin Lannister. Next we see Arya with white eyes, which could mean two things. Either her continued blindness or her warging. The thing is, in her plotline, both things happen to her. Just as Bran's coma and his blindness in the Crypts of Winterfell advanced his ability, Arya's abilities advanced when she was blind. And here are what I'm guessing are Tyrell forces outside of the Sept of Baelor. Again, I'm guessing that Marjorie will be found guilty, and they will try to rescue her. And then we have a quick shot of Sansa fleeing, not much to say about that. And then we get a shot of Dothraki fighting. This is likely a small fight between the Super Dario brothers and some Dothraki. The other idea is that they've come to Meereen and are fighting there, but the mountains in the background make me think not. And then we get a vision of Bran where he sees the Night King, and we know it's a vision as Bran is standing. Weirdly though, the Night King seems to see him back. Now if I had to make one solid bet on anything in the series, it's that the others aren't evil. I believe that someone is orchestrating a fight between the others and the humans. The question here is if Bran is going to be part of the problem or part of the solution of peace. And then in our final scene, we have Davos unsheathing Longclaw. I imagine he's going to go fight Alistair Thorne and the other Black brothers. Interestingly, Ghost is there, and I imagine Jon's consciousness is inside him. And that's it, guys, a 14-minute explanation of a 90-second clip. Thanks for watching.